The strength to start. The same fear I always feel before a big Sunday run, and especially after I, quote, failed the previous Sunday by not hitting my target kilometers. Will I make it? Will I quit again? Fall over? I don't know. I never do. As intuitive as I am, I can't see the future. But I do know I've done my best to prepare. I know that my legs are strong and I'm physically capable of completing the training run. No question there. Strength. And it all comes down to strength, and there's so many forms of strength to consider. The strength to push myself, both mentally and physically. The strength to support and encourage myself instead of thinking I might fail, like last time. The strength to let this run be this run and not compare it to any others, to practice agility and resilience. The strength to accept the last time. No, I didn't hit the Ks, but it did what I felt like I needed to do to take care of myself, and I can be proud of that, damn it. The strength to get started, to take that first step despite the fear, because that's the hardest part. I used to tell my personal training clients, the hardest thing you have to do is get here. Walk through the door. Everything else is easy. Wise words I've so often forgotten to apply to myself in many different facets of my own life. Yes, the strength to get started, to overcome hesitancy and fear of either failure or success, to grapple with thoughts of all the other things we'd like to do or think we should be doing instead. All those other things piled up like a huge heap of shit placed in front of our start line. But who put it there? At times it seems like life put this shit in our way. When we dig deeper, however, we may find that it is composed of a lot of little choices we've made along the way without realizing the consequences. What matters most is that we realize that only we have the power to move past the stinking stack, regardless of what it consists of or how it appeared. Ironically, whether we do or don't is of little matter. What matters is that we recognize it as a choice and practice the power of making that decision with awareness. Own that shit. For me, in my highest kilometer runs, it helps to simply choose to take that first step. Nothing else matters. I tried. I practiced finding the strength to start. A different sort of muscle perhaps, but one well worth flexing. I find it's also true for my work and writing on my blog. I spend time thinking myself into paralysis. So much to do. Where do I start? But often just checking one email, looking up one set of data, writing down one word. 2 hours later, I find I've been working away contentedly, my previous apprehensions or hesitations quite forgotten. It occurs to me that this resistance to making a start is not only completely natural, but abides the very laws of physics. There are 2 forms of friction, static and kinetic. The force required to overcome static friction, moving something from a resting state to a mobile state, is always greater than kinetic friction, which is the force required to keep moving an object in motion. This is common sense to anyone who's pushed like hell against a couch to move it, using all their strength to heave it out of its inert position. Then we fall flat on our faces once the fucking thing starts moving. Physically, this is because the static friction is greater than the kinetic friction. Further to that, different objects and materials have different frictional values, making them easier to move and get into motion. Like a ball versus a block, or sandpaper versus silk. The less rough, the easier it is to move. If I apply this logic to my training run or anything else I want to get started, there's a big benefit to smoothing the edges. Smooth the edge, ease the transition from stillness to motion. What would that entail? Perhaps one drafted email left intentionally behind in my work account to get me ticking along in the morning. A cruisy 7K before hitting a 16K more challenging route. A meme for a blog post I haven't written yet. And fuck it. If none of that works, take a deep breath and forge ahead. Take a conscious view of the inner fear, hesitancy, should-dos, and any other source of internal friction and proclaim, move over, bitches, here I come. Months later, the day before the Auckland Marathon, I was basically shitting myself. Due to some lingering, extremely annoying chest congestion, I hadn't been able to take a full breath in a couple of weeks. I was slowly convincing myself that I wasn't going to be able to finish the race. Conscious of these words I had written, I went to a pharmacy and got some eucalyptus oil to help my lungs and told my husband that I needed him to get my ass to the start line. These were my chosen mechanisms for easing the frictional forces in my brain, telling me that I'd fail. I knew, however, if I could just make a start, my body would naturally do what I'd been training it to do, and I'd cross the finish line no matter what it took. And I did.